welcome to The Edge. Well, we're taking in-depth analysis of today's top stories by looking beyond the edge, bringing you not just the facts, but also deep insights into the topics, expert opinions and social media reactions. So let's make a start with our look beyond the edge. Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus are marking the 47th anniversary of the Turkish Armed Forces peace operation on the island. With their operation launched at dawn on the 20th of July 1974, Turkish soldiers saved both Turkish and Greek Cypriots from the darkness of the oppressive regime. Our negotiation process is ongoing on the island. Palestinians have condemned the storming of the Al-AQSA mosque compound on Sunday by Israeli police, which then launched tear gas and rubber-coated steel bullets at worshippers at Islam's third holiest site in occupied East Jerusalem. Will the international community intervene in order to stop the Israeli atrocities? And OPEC Plus ministers agreed to boost oil supply from August to cool prices as the global economy recovers from the coronavirus pandemic. The group, which includes OPEC countries and allies like Russia, crucially agreed new production allocations from May 2022, after Saudi Arabia and others agreed to a request from the United Arab Emirates that had threatened the plan. How will the deal affect the global economy? So these are the top three stories that we'll be taking a look at today from Beyond the Edge. Let's get started. The Cyprus issue has remained unsolved for more than 50 years. Our following infographic gives a brief history. Turkey has always given full support to Turkish Cypriots by protecting their rights and interests, both at the negotiation table and on international platforms.
Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus are marking the 47th anniversary of the Turkish Armed Forces peace operation on the island. With their operation launched at dawn on the 20th of July 1974, Turkish soldiers saved both Turkish and Greek Cypriots from the darkness of the oppressive regime. Turkish paratroopers were deployed at various points of the island, while fighter jets flew low over the land.
Türk Silahlı Kuvvetleri ateş açılmadıkça ateş etmeyeceklerdir. Savaş için değil, barış için Kıbrıs'tadırlar. Kıbrıs'ı istila için değil, zorbaca bir istilaya son vermek için Kıbrıs'tadırlar.
Following the operation's success, the Turkish Federated State of Cyprus was established in 1975, with Rauf Denktaş elected president. In 1983, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus was established. The Turkish peace operation in 1974 undoubtedly saved the Turkish Cypriot community from mass extermination, prevented the annexation of Cyprus to Greece, and thus preserved the independence of the island. The political solution to be found to the Cyprus issue is the key factor to protect the rights and interests of the Turkish Cypriots and Turkey on the island. Continuation of the strong and independent existence of the Turkish Cypriots is a must to reach this end result, and the relations between two countries are organised accordingly. Turkey has always been the major supporter of the Turkish Cypriot side on the negotiations which have been ongoing for many years between the stakeholders. Turkey has been strongly supporting the negotiation processes on the island. The constructive approach demonstrated and the proposals put forward by Turkey during the negotiation processes are the indicators of Turkey's support to the negotiations on the island. Moreover, Turkey has also shown its moral support at all times to Turkish Cypriots to protect their rights and interests both at the negotiation table and in the international platform. The policies which are formulated to end the unjust isolations and to make the voices of the Turkish Cypriots heard in the international arena are conducted by two countries in close cooperation.
My new vision is, as you would have known, two sovereign states living side by side in a good neighborly relationship to cooperate in any way to promote the welfare for all Cypriots and also to basically achieve a political equilibrium in the most important Eastern Mediterranean.
And I'm joined live from Lefkosa in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus by Professor Dr. Mete Gozoguzeli, who's an assistant professor of social studies at the University of Ankara. Mete, thank you for joining us today here on The Edge. Now, July the 20th is celebrated as Peace and Freedom Day in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. And this year, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has gone to celebrate alongside you. Can you tell us what is the significance of this day and what do we expect from the Turkish president's visit?
This is a historical visiting and not symbolic visiting, because President Erdogan gives a very, very important message in the Turkish Assembly of the Turkish Cypriots. And he spoke that Turkey will always stand with Turkish Cypriots. And secondly, Turkey will support the Turkish Cypriot thesis on the two-state solution model. Aftermath of this process, Turkey will also help the Turkish Cypriots' economic development in every field. And also, Turkey decided to make a new building for the presidential office and for the Turkish Cypriot Assembly, because we have been used these buildings since the colonial period in the British era. So Turkey decided to show its strong positions in every field, which is giving by support in many fields, you know that. So this is the very, very important visiting. But I think after tomorrow, at least, we will see the next explanation, which is given by the President Erdogan, because everything started to change, especially Turkey has a big power in geopolitics, in geostrategic stance, and Turkey put its goodwill in every field, which will support, of course, the solution of the Cyprus problem, but it is time to make a true diagnosis over the Cyprus issue. So this message, if you look at all these messages, you will see that this is the national unity of both sides. Both sides show its goodwill and show its friendship status between them, and they will give a message to the world, because aftermath of the 20th July, the world should aware that the Cyprus issue is not an occupation issue. Cyprus issue, it's an user-good violation of the Greek Cypriot side, which, you know, that the contested Cyprus Republic status still goes on, and the world tries to. The world doesn't understand the issue yet, because the Greek Cypriots always tries to show the Cyprus issue is an occupation, but it's not reflects realities. Why Turkey intervened the island? Why we are talking the peace operation of the 20 July? Because if you remember the 15 July 1974, the coup d'etat was happened in Cyprus, and the General Nikos Samson declared that the island annexed to the Greece, and Turkey has the right, which arising from the international law, as in the guarantee treaty, that Turkey has the right to intervene the island. And when Turkey intervened the island, saved all the people's life. And since 1974, no one has no right to say anything else, because our safety is, you can see easily, we are in safe. And Turkish soldiers, Turkey provides a peace since 1974 in the island. So that's why Turkish Cypriots always favor in 20 July, because during the coup d'etat period, or since the 1963 until 1974 July, the Greek Cypriot side made a genocide against the Turkish Cypriots. They spelled out their villages, they lost their lives, they lost their homes, and it was very hard period. And economic blockade was used also by the Greek Cypriot administration. Why? Because they only believe the island belongs to the Greece. That's why the NOCs should be happened. That's why
can I ask you? Everyone can plainly see the history of the last 50 years, and indeed before that. It's open. It's clear. I visited Lefkos a few years ago, and visited. There's a museum to those that were killed by the Greeks on the island. I'm sure you know it very well. And that was a very moving experience for me, to see the bullet holes in the walls, and to see that home that had been turned into a battleground with tremendous loss of life. Why is it that even though people can see the truth of the history that is there, that people like Ursula von der Leyen just last week said, no, there is no two-state solution, there must be a federal solution? Why is nobody listening to what the Turkish Cypriots want when they are the victims in this situation?
Because the Cyprus issue is a political issue. We cannot say easily, of course, this is the issue which should be solved in the context of the international law. All the global actors tries to domain on the island, and it's a competition actually with the global powers. And we have seen that if you look at the latest developments in Eastern Mediterranean, Turkey has the right on the maritime jurisdictions in the Eastern Mediterranean, and it is really clear issue. But at the end, only the Greek Cypriot side and the Greece tries to show a map, and they try to force this map is legal, and Turkey should obey these so-called borders. Then they try to increase the tension. But at the end, Turkey changed, and Turkey is not old Turkey. And Cyprus also, Turkish Cypriot state also is not an old Turkish Cypriot state. Everything is the rising global power of Turkey is a global power acting. And this rising status of Turkey gives a support to Turkish Cypriots to declare their national inherent rights against the injustice stance to the international world. Of course, the federal solution has ended because since the 50 years, Turkey and Turkish Cypriots tried to find a solution. But at the end, we have seen that nothing has changed, because since the 1968 until now, the Greek Cypriot side only says, and international also, some actors says only federal solution. But the end, if you look at the bottom side, you will see nothing here, because the Greek Cypriot side never ready to share equal power sharing with Turkish Cypriots. They only see Turkish Cypriot as minority, which you remember after Montana, Mr. Anastasiadis, the Greek Cypriot leader, said that majority cannot be share its sovereignty with minority. He said that these words. He spoke that.
And this really emphasises the need then for the two independent states to be recognised and given their full sovereignty and rights, so that they can determine their independent futures together. Thank you so much for joining us today here on The Edge. The 20th of July is an important day to be remembered, and I'm sure that tomorrow we're looking forward to hearing good news from the Turkish president and good news for the people of Turkish Cyprus. Thank you so much for joining us here today on The Edge. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has reiterated the need for a two-state solution for the settlement of the Cyprus issue, adding that a political solution is the key factor to protect the rights and interests of the Turkish Cypriots and Turkey on the island. We'll keep reporting on the developments regarding the Cyprus issue. But for now, let's move to our next topic to speak about Israel's continuing atrocities against Palestinians. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict was one of the main topics during a recent phone call between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Israeli counterpart. What proposals have been put forward to solve the conflict? Our following infographic explains. Israeli forces once again stormed the Al-Aqsa mosque compound on Monday, firing tear gas and rubber-coated bullets at Palestinian worshippers at Islam's third holiest site.
Dozens of Israeli settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque for the second day on Monday during the Islamic holiday of Arafat. On Sunday morning, over 1,000 settlers backed by Israeli forces stormed the mosque compound in Jerusalem. According to reports, they attacked worshippers, firing tear gas canisters and stun grenades against them inside the mosque and smashing some historical windows. They also assaulted a Palestinian woman in the mosque courtyard. Palestinian officials say police forcefully evacuated worshippers to clear the way for Jewish settlers and fired rubber-coated bullets during the confrontation.
هذا استفزاز واضح. الفجر إخراج المصلين بقوة، اقتحام أكثر من 1300 متطرف، أدوا صلوات تلمودية، مسيرات استفزازية، اقتحام لداخل المسجد الأقصى من قبل الاحتلال، وأيضا التواجد في ساحات المسجد الأقصى والاعتداء على المصلين والتواجد في ساحة المسجد الأقصى حتى هذه الساعة.
The Palestinian Authority called the incident provocative and a serious threat to security and stability. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett directed the Jews visiting the Holy Mosque to continue while maintaining order at the site. Violations against the sanctity of the mosque, which is Islam's third holiest site, are still continuing and have come as a result of a systematic plan to impose a spatial and temporal division of the Al-Aqsa site.
I'm now joined live from Jerusalem by Dr. Jamal Amro, who's a Palestinian expert at Birzeit University. Dr. Amro, thank you for joining us again here today on The Edge. It was just a very little while ago, the Ramadan holiday, that we saw the Al-Aqsa Mosque being stormed by Zionists. Again today, at the start of the Eid holiday, we're seeing the same thing all over again. The Jewish Zionists claiming to put on some sort of religious front and yet desecrating a place of worship. What can you tell us about the situation over the last few days at Al-Aqsa Mosque? What actually has been happening on the ground in Jerusalem?
As you see in that film, the Israelis storms the whole of Palestine, not only Al-Aqsa Mosque, not only Jerusalem, all of West Bank, all of Gaza, all of 84 areas. Israel storms everything. Since about 30 years, we are trying to make peace, a two-state solution, but nothing happened in this direction. Instead of that, the Israelis and the Israeli parties and the Israeli people, the Zionists, are going more and more direction right swings and direction of separation and building walls. And as you see in Al-Aqsa Mosque, they break all kinds of democracy. They break the windows, the doors. They hit the people, the women, the children. They denied the Muslims to reach their mosque. This is a mosque. This is a Muslim holy place. Why the Israeli Sunnis are storming the Al-Aqsa? Why? No Muslim at the world is storming Israel synagogue at all. In Turkey, in Tunis, in Algeria, in Egypt, everywhere. No Muslim enter the Israeli holy places at all. Why the Israelis attacking with weapons, with all kinds of hate? They attack Al-Aqsa Mosque and they denied all Muslims to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque at the doors. They closed the doors with different ways, and they help the Israeli Zionists to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque under protection of military forces, and they feel free and they walk free, peaceful free, with military protection. This is the state which is always say that they are the only democracy in the Middle East. It is Israel. All other states are dictator, but the Israelis are democracy. This is a big joke. Israel, if we really know the facts of Israel, Israel must not be a state, not like a state. They have to kick Israel out of the United Nations, out of all relationship, out of all any embassies in Arabic world or Islamic world. Israel is doing a criminal act against Islam and against all Muslims in the world, because Al-Aqsa Mosque, it doesn't belong to the Palestinians. It belongs to all Muslims in the world. This is the reality, and this thing must be well known for every Muslim. And you remember when the Israelis attack the ship, that Marmara, and they kill the people, the peaceful people who's coming to enter to reach Gaza at that time. The Israelis attacking everything in Lebanon, in Syria, and everywhere. They are criminals.
They're certainly doing this very open-handedly, and the newly sworn-in Premier Bennett has said that he did indeed instruct the organised and what he described as safe visits of the Jews to the Temple Mount. He says that these visits must continue. But under his new coalition, his coalition is very broad. Has there not been any pushback from within the government against these violations?
Bennett is ahead of a very weak government, and the coalition of 7 parties is very weak. And Bennett is trying to demonstrate power. This is a power demonstration, and he lied, and he belonged to the right swing, and he is doing a lot of problems since he came to the government. He did a lot of things now. See what he decided for the Muslims cemetery near Al-AQSA mosque. They are demolishing now the graves of the Muslims there. It means this government is very weak, and he wants to show for the settlers and Zionists everywhere in West Bank and the settlers in everywhere in the world. He wants to show them that he is strong enough and he is more right than Netanyahu, and he can attack Gaza against balloons. Yani he sent airplanes and attacking the civilians in Gaza and killing the people there. Just that he want to show them that he is strong and more strong than Netanyahu himself. Bennett is a big catastrophe for the Zionists, for Israel, for the whole area. This government must be demolished and must go out of Palestine.
At the same time, an European Union delegation to Palestine has said that it's concerned about the ongoing tensions and urged that there are no acts of incitement, suggesting that the Israelis should pull back and I assume allow, whilst calling for respect from for the site. Showing that the Muslims should be allowed to worship there. Is this a sign that the European Union is slowly, maybe finally, beginning to see what's left, or is this just a puff of words to stroke over the situation?
Look, sir, the European Union start really to understand the criminality of the Israeli government, and even there is a lot of people, 71 person in the Congress in America, even though they send a letter showing the Israeli criminalities. And this happened from European Union, who start to take aware of the villagers in Jordan Valley, where Bennett demolished 40 houses there for these poor people. European Union and the Congress start to understand the whole situation during parallel to the Arab states like Emirates. They are criminals. They open embassies, they exchange trades, and they exchange all of kinds of relationships with the Zionists. This is something strange happened in the area. How is that? How is that these Arab regimes start a relationship to Israeli Zionists during the time that European Union start to understand the situation and take aware of the people who are under occupation here in Palestine? This is strange, and this is maybe send a message for the people of the Arab world and the Muslims world that these governments are protecting Israel. The Emirates, Bahrain, and maybe Morocco, they are protecting Israel. They are doing everything to keep Israel in power because they are afraid of their regimes, of corrupted regimes. I think in the next future we will see a big, maybe in the next future we will see a big revolution in the whole area.
And alongside that, the Palestinian authorities accusing Israel of tampering with the security and stability of the region, and also suggesting that Israel is perhaps aiming for. Sorry, it was the Waqf suggested that Israel is perhaps aiming for a religious war. Is this a real threat?
In the fact, the Palestinian Authority is very weak, very, very weak, really. And when you see what they said good words and good sentences, and something. They describe the situation in a very good way. But on the ground, they are killing the Palestinians. They are arresting the good Palestinians and the activists of Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority must change their courses, all of their theoretical courses. They are really lying, like Bennett. They have to change all of their actions in Palestine. The Palestinian Authority is protecting the settlers, the Zionist settlers in West Bank. Every Palestinian activist who attack or stay in front of the settlers and their criminal acts, the Palestinian Authority is taking care of the settlers and arrested them. This is really very, very complicated situation. According to Oslo Declaration, it must be something related to the Israeli security and safety factors that the Palestinians sign to protect the Israeli security and Israeli security forces and settlers in West Bank. This is a very bad job for a Palestinian Authority, so-called Palestinian Authority. It is not more Palestinian Authority. They have to change their, all of their, let us say, to change all of their politics at all, because the Palestinians don't think and don't accept this Palestinian act.
Of course, one of the big problems with the Palestinian Authority is that there have been no elections for so long. Are there any signs that that these might happen in the near future and give the people back the chance to rebuild their political future?
This is the reality. You give it and you describe it in a very good way. The president of Palestine, so-called Mahmoud Abbas, in the last few days before the election, he stopped the whole process, and he said, because the Israelis don't allow us to make our elections in Jerusalem. This is a lie. Really, this is a lie. And he just asked for 6,000 votes in Jerusalem. This is a big joke. Palestinian Authority knows through the Israeli security forces that they will lose the election, and they cannot pass the election, and they cannot build a government to protect the Israelis, and they have to stop this election soon. And this is what happened through the president of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas. He stopped everything, and since that time, everything is going more bad and bad. And the Palestinian forces arrested hundreds of Palestinian activists, and they killed a lot of them. And you remember the case of Nizar Banat. This is really a very complicated situation done by Palestinian Authority, who is working together now with Bennett and maybe in the future with Joe Biden, trying to give a life for the two-state solution. This is a dream which never happened with these right wings of Israeli parties. Yes.
Well, this is obviously there needs to be a move towards finding this solution, finding the two-state solution. But for right now, at the beginning of Eid, I hope that that things don't escalate and that peace returns to Al-Aqsa and all the neighbourhoods around, and that the Muslims in Palestine have a peaceful religious holiday. Dr. Jamal Amro, thank you so much for joining us here today on The Edge. Thank you. Israeli forces shut all entrances and gates to the Al-Aqsa complex, while Israeli settler groups called on supporters to force their way into the Al-Aqsa complex in large numbers on Sunday. Another sign of Israel's occupation in the region. We hope that the international community does not keep silent against these atrocities. But for now, let's move to our final topic to speak about the deal which has been reached between OPEC countries. United Arab Emirates energy minister said that the world's leading oil producers have reached a full agreement to modestly boost output from August, ending a standoff that laid bare a growing economic rivalry. Our following infographic has the main facts of the standoff. Oil prices fell more than 1% on Monday, hit by an agreement over the weekend within the OPEC Plus group of producers to boost output after an earlier pact fell apart due to objections from the United Arab Emirates.
Oil prices have fallen more than 1% after OPEC agrees to boost supply. Brent crude was down 1.4% at $72.59 a barrel in early trade on Monday, after falling nearly 3% last week. US oil was down around 1.3% at $70.87 a barrel, having declined almost 4% last week. OPEC Plus ministers agreed on Sunday to increase oil supply from August to dampen prices that earlier this month climbed to the highest in around 2.5 years as the global economy recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. The group, which includes members of the Organisation of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies like Russia, together known as OPEC Plus, agreed new production shares from May 2022. RBC Capital Markets said in a note, quote, "This agreement should give market participants comfort that the group is not headed for a messy breakup and will not be opening up the production floodgates anytime soon." OPEC Plus agreed new production quotas for other members from May 2022, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Kuwait and Iraq. The group last year cut output by a record 10 million barrels per day amid an evaporation in demand as the pandemic developed, prompting a collapse in prices with US oil at one point falling in negative territory. It has gradually brought back some supply, leaving it with a reduction of around 5.8 million barrels per day.
I'm now joined live from Washington, D.C. by Ralph Mammadov, who's an energy scholar at the Middle East Institute.
Hello.
Ralph, thank you for joining us here today on The Edge. This situation is both remarkably complex and remarkably simple. I understand the cut in supply was due to the reduced demand because of the coronavirus pandemic, and now that normalization is coming back, there's obviously the balance is changing, but not just. It's not just simple because of the coronavirus coming and going, what have you, but also the desires of some of the countries, like the United Arab Emirates, have changed, and they're wanting to boost their income. So, could you outline what the problem was and how has it been resolved?
Well, that was a very good description of the very complex situation. Actually,
oh, thank
you. The gist of the issue is actually the fundamentals of the oil market, which has changed dramatically for the last 5-6 years. As you have mentioned correctly, the COVID pandemic was an unprecedented event, which had an unbelievable impact on the oil industry when we saw the negative oil prices in WTI Brent. And the COVID was just the one very significant development which exacerbated the situation. But the fundamentals, what have changed is that Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia-led OPEC is no longer the dominant oil producer group or cartel. And they have the increase of production from non-OPEC members have led to this situation, and which has consequently led to the OPEC Plus. But OPEC Plus itself is a very complex structure. First of all, there is no binding international law that there is a framework that these decisions have to be made. It's a game theory platform where every producer has certain quota, and every producer is interested in producing as much as possible, especially given the fact that these countries are dependent on oil revenues. And when the situation gets difficult, as with the pandemic, or when there is a different interpretation of the market, we have the situation as we had last year, Saudi Arabia and Russia, or what we have now. We had now between Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. In bottom line, we will. The volatility, first of all, is the new reality. We have to already accept that. We're not expecting any normalization of the market fundamentals for another 2 or 3 years, at least. And up until that time, the market will be regulated by OPEC Plus, partially. And every time there is a different interpretation of the market, as what we have witnessed last spring between Russia and Saudi Arabia, and this summer between UAE and Saudi Arabia, there will be similar cases. And what makes the situation even more complex is that oil is a geopolitical commodity, and that means that geopolitical developments will have certain impacts on it. And one of them, I'm sure you will be asking about, is the JCPOA and the implications of it.
And indeed, unexpected events like the blockage of the Suez Canal. I'm sure all of these things are going to make a very complex formulas for each country working out what they want to produce and what they want the sort of income they want to receive from that. Now, does this the friction that we saw over the last week or so, does this mean that OPEC as a body needs to be totally reformed, or will we see other problems going forward?
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question again, because I think there was a connection problem.
Yes, we got some slight connectivity here. The problems that we saw over the last week, does this suggest to us that we will see more instability within OPEC, and that maybe as an organisation that some fundamental thinking needs to be done about the future of OPEC and OPEC Plus, and how to make sure that more instability isn't injected into the system?
I think it's beyond their discretion, because the whole format of the cartel dictates this kind of relationship. It's actually, you have to give him credit for maintaining this cartel for last 4 years. But as it gets implicated with the more externalities, as we have witnessed with Suez Canal blockage or any escalation between Iran and any other country in the region, or attack of the Saudi oil and gas facilities. So these all will have implications on the deal. But I think the main problem, the main challenge is that not all the key members of the cartel perceive the situation as it's what it is now.
Well, we're very much looking forward to see what happens, and pleased that a deal has been struck for now. Rauf Mammadov, thank you so much for joining us here today on The Edge. Look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Thank you. From August until December 2021, the group will increase supply by a further 2 million barrels per day, while it aims to fully phase out cuts by around September 2022. Coming days will reveal the effects of the deal on the global economy. Now, our analysts from around the world have provided their insights on today's top stories. Let's have a roundup of what they had to say. Before closing our programme, let's take a look at social media to hear your voices and reactions on today's top story shared with the hashtag Free Palestine. And here's what you had to say about Free Palestine on Twitter. Islam Nas said, "Please do not be silent against the oppression. Announce, share, let everyone remember, remind. These attacks are inhuman." Jamana said, "Rubber bullets used by Israel occupation forces to attack civilians at Al-Aqsa Mosque today." And Zainab said, "It's Eid soon, and we all know what that means for the Palestinians. May Allah make it easy for them and protect them. Amen." And let's now take a look at our video of the day, which tells the story of Palestinian families who live under occupation.
Ever since I opened my eyes to the world, I have been hearing about court cases and being threatened with eviction. This started in 1972. I wasn't even born yet when the cases in the court started. My name is Reem Hamad. I was born and raised in this house in Sheikh Jarrah. Our house is our basic right as human beings, and the thought of not having this house kills me inside. Being uprooted from your house is just totally unfair, inhumane, and unjust. To me, my home is where I find my peace of mind. My home is where I find people I love, people I cherish. My home is where all my dreams and hopes started and grew. My home is where I hope to be and stay and die. We are supposed to love each other. This world was built for everybody. I don't see why we should have this much hatred in our hearts for each other.
And that's all for this episode of The Edge with me, Andy Boyne. Stay tuned as we'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth analysis on the top stories and a look beyond the edge.